Imagine this. You're sitting around one night, doom-scrolling history facts, when you realize, wait, how did one of the deadliest plagues in human history just stop? Like, this thing wiped out entire towns, terrified everyone, and then suddenly it was gone? You've probably heard of the Black Death. You know, the big, scary plague that killed a ridiculous number of people. But how did it actually, stop being the world's worst nightmare? How did you make it this far in life without ever getting a straight answer to that? Today, I'll explain how the bubonic plague actually ended to you like you're 5 years old. And by the end of this video, you'll be the one at the dinner table casually dropping the truth about why that super scary sickness finally packed its bag and mostly left. Okay, so imagine a very, very, very bad game of tag, but the person who's it is invisible, smells bad, and wants to give everyone a really terrible tummy ache and lots of spots. That was the Black Death, or the bubonic plague. For a long time, centuries even, the sickness would pop up, make a huge mess, kill lots of people, and then, well, it would just go away for a little bit, only to come back later. It was like an uninvited house guest who just kept showing up. The question, though, is how it ended forever. Because it didn't. Well, not completely. The real question is how it stopped being such a major, widespread disaster. How it stopped taking over entire continents. First, let's talk about the bad guys in this story. No, not dragons or goblins, but things even smaller. We have the germ, which is a tiny, tiny invisible thing that makes you sick. Then we have the flea, which is a tiny jumping bug. And finally, the rat, which is a furry animal that likes to hang out where people live. Now, these three were the world's worst best friends, working together to spread misery. The germ would live inside the flea would then live on the rat, and the rat, well, being a rat, loved to live really, really close to people. Do you see where I'm going with this? It was like a horrible, tiny, living chain reaction. The flea would bite the rat, get full of germs, and then, because the rat died, the flea would jump onto a new animal looking for a meal. And sometimes that new animal was a human. And when the flea bit a human, boom, germ delivery. Now, why is this so incredibly awful back then? I mean, hundreds of years ago. Well, because people didn't know about germs. They thought sicknesses came from bad smells, or from angry gods, or maybe just from eating too much cheese. They certainly didn't know that tiny bugs on rats were the problem. So when people got sick, everyone just kept living together, sharing beds and sharing food and sharing fleas. It was like trying to stop a water fight by yelling at the water. It just wasn't going to work. And cities were also very dirty. I mean, imagine your room if you never ever picked anything up. And also, rats lived in there. Lots of trash, lots of food scraps, lots of places for rats and their fleas to make a cozy home. So, the stage was perfectly set for this terrible, invisible enemy to just run wild. It was basically a germ's paradise and a human's nightmare. So how did this whole awful party eventually start to quiet down? It wasn't one big magic trick or a superhero swooping in. It was a whole bunch of things, very slowly, over a very, very long time. Think of it like trying to clean your entire house after a giant year-long slumber party. It takes a while and you have to do a lot of different things. One of the first big things to help was something called quarantine. Now, this is a fancy word, but it just means stay away from sick people. And this was actually a huge revolutionary idea at the time. Before, if someone got sick, their family would gather around, try to help, and then everyone else would get sick too. It was like watching someone play with a dirty toy and then immediately putting it in your mouth. Not smart. But then, some smart people started to notice something. If sick people were kept separate from healthy people, fewer healthy people got sick. Shocking, I know. Cities started trying things like making people wait on their ships for 40 days before they could come into the city, just to make sure they weren't carrying any invisible bad guys. 40 days is a long time to sit on a boat, but it was better than, well, dying. They even started setting up special houses, sometimes called pest houses, where sick people could go. It was like sending the sick kid to a separate, faraway playroom so they didn't share their germy toys with everyone else. Now, this didn't always work perfectly because some people didn't want to leave their homes, but it was a start. It was the very first step in telling the germ, hey, maybe don't sit right next to me on the couch. Next up, people slowly started to understand hygiene a little better. Now, don't get me wrong. they still weren't showering daily or using hand sanitizer, but this was centuries ago, remember? They did start to notice that really, really dirty places seemed to have more sickness, and if you cleaned up the trash, if you buried dead bodies far away instead of just leaving them on the street, if you tried to keep rats out of your house, there seemed to be fewer fleas and fewer sick people. It was like finally realizing that if you keep your cookies on the counter, the ants will find them, but if you put them in a sealed jar, they mostly leave you alone. And this wasn't a sudden light bulb moment for everyone. It was actually a pretty slow and gradual learning process, where generations picked up small habits from the last, like passing down a family recipe, but for not dying. Over time, cities started to get a little bit cleaner. Not sparkling, mind you, but, less like a giant dumpster. Less trash means fewer rats, and fewer rats means fewer fleas. And fewer fleas means fewer chances for that germ to jump from a rat onto a person. It's really just basic math for disease control, which they were figuring out by tragic trial and error. Then there's the story of the rats themselves. Now, this is kind of fascinating. For a long time, the dominant rat in Europe was the black rat, and this little guy, also known as the roof rat, loved to live with people. In their houses, in their attics, in their walls. They were basically roommates, but the kind who never paid rent and brought deadly diseases into the house. But then, another kind of rat started to become more common. The brown rat. And the brown rat is bigger, meaner, and it likes to live in sewers and underground tunnels, away from people. Think of it as the difference between a house cat and a street cat. The brown rat wasn't as interested in hanging around in your kitchen. As the brown rat population grew, they started to push out the black rats. It was kind of like a hostile takeover in the rodent world, and since the brown rats didn't live as closely with humans, their fleas also didn't get as many chances to bite humans. So, fewer black rats equals fewer fleas in your bed, which equals fewer chances for the germ to get to you. It was a natural rat eviction notice, and it really helped. And here's another big one. People themselves started to change. No, not their fashion sense, but their bodies. When a really, really terrible sickness goes through a huge group of people, the ones who survive often have something special about them. Maybe their bodies are just a little bit better at fighting off that specific germ. It's like if you have a class full of kids trying to run a race. Some kids are naturally faster. The plague was like a terrible, deadly race, and the survivors were, on average, the ones whose bodies had a tiny bit more natural oomph to fight off the germ. They didn't even know they had it. It was over many generations that more and more people were born with these tiny, invisible super shields inside their bodies. Their ancestors had survived the plague, and they passed on a little bit of that survival power. So, even if the germ still came around, more people were able to get sick, fight it off, and live instead of, dying. This made it much harder for the germ to just wipe out entire towns like it used to. The human population wasn't quite as easy a target anymore. And then there's also the theory that the germ itself might have changed. Think of a really mean bully who learns that if they punch too hard, no one wants to play with them anymore. A very, very smart germ doesn't want to kill all its hosts, because then it runs out of places to live. So, over many, many years, it's possible that Yersinia pestis germ became a little less deadly. Not because it suddenly became nice, but because the ones that were slightly less deadly were better at spreading. If you kill everyone too fast, you don't get to travel to new towns. So maybe the germ evolved into a slightly weaker version, one that could still make people sick, but didn't always kill them. Now, this isn't 100% certain, but it's a pretty good guess based on how germs usually behave. It's like the germ learned to dial down its evilness from a 10 to a 7, which, was still bad, but not world-ending bad. And finally, we've also had changes in climate and agriculture. Sometimes, periods of very cold weather could reduce the number of fleas and rats, giving everyone a temporary break. Also, as farming methods slowly improved, people had more food, and healthier people are better at fighting off sicknesses. It's like trying to fight a monster when you're well-fed and strong versus when you're hungry and tired. The stronger you are, the better your chances. So, when we talk about the Black Death ending, it's not like someone just flipped a switch. It was a pretty slow, messy, and complicated process that actually took hundreds of years. People died, yes, but those who survived adapted. Their bodies got a bit tougher. They started very slowly to understand how disease spread and how to stop it, like separating sick people. And the rats that carried the fleas changed. The germ itself might have gotten a little less grumpy. It was a combination of biological changes, human ingenuity, and just plain dumb luck, all mixing together like a really confusing stew. The plague never totally disappeared. It does still exist in some places in the world, like in wild rat populations. It's now just a very sleepy, cranky monster that sometimes wakes up for a snack. But because of all these changes, it stopped being the unstoppable, terrifying force that it once was in Europe. It stopped being the biggest bully on the playground. And so, there you have it. The Black Death didn't just vanish into thin air. It quieted down because people learned very slowly and painfully to keep sick people away from healthy people, to clean up their messes so that rats and their tiny bug taxis couldn't spread the germs, and because over many years, human bodies got a little better at fighting off a sickness. It was like a really long, really awful game of hide and seek with an invisible monster. But eventually, we learned its hiding spots and how to make it harder for it to find us. So now you know, you're practically a historical epidemiologist for 5-year-olds. So go forth and amaze your friends with your knowledge of ancient plagues and rodent population shifts. You're welcome.